Well, hello there, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages. My name is DB333, and welcome back to Hearts of Iron 4, the New Order Last Days of Europe, as the US of A. Now, we've had our elections, and John McCormack did his best to salvage things for Republican Democrats. It didn't work out for this election because we have elected the man, the myth, the legend, Robert Kennedy, into his stead. But I think he might have saved the RDs in the future. Quite possibly. Which sets us up very well for, okay. Our advance into the German colonies in Africa goes well. Indeed, if the message the Germans sent us today is any indication that it's going better than expected, the Reich sent us communicating that is amicable to a ceasefire, specifically one of the borders of South Africa, is substantially larger than they were de facto before the conflict started. Whilst refusing to withdraw from Angola, the Congo, or former British East Africa, this is a significant gain for Rio, and if we decide to accept, representing our commitment to protecting members of the Alliance and the valor of our soldiers. Of course, there's no total victory, and some more ardent warhawks insist we could push further, but a substantial portion of the government are of the opinion that we should not bite off more than we can chew. Yeah, it's time to bring this conflict to an end. And America has decided. The victory speech and party of the winner has taken place, as did the more somber concession of a defeated candidate. The last of ballots has been counted and certified. The election of 1964 is over. The president of the White House has been determined for the next 4 years, and that of Congress for the next 2. While there is still the meeting of the Electoral College in December, and the inauguration on January 20th, to make sure everything official for the history books. For many people, the new presidency begins now. If re-elected, the current president will just carry on with his regular duties, but if the president has been selected, then the lame duck will hold the fort, issue his pardons, work with the president-elect to ensure the transfer of power is smooth and uneventful, and maybe begin planning his life after ascending to the highest office in American politics. The Daily News is now back to regular crime, scandal, foreign crisis, and fluff pieces that have been shunted to the side in the past few months, and soon the campaign will become a distant memory, only for historians and nostalgic staffers to look back on the future. After all, the work is underway already to prepare for the midterms, and 4 years from now the whole thing will begin again. Hail to the chief, whoever it may be. The election results are gone, and it is over. The war in Africa is concluded. With the approval of the 3 Nazi Reichskommissariats have agreed to a conditional ceasefire, ending all fighting in South Africa. While American OFN troops are deep in the jungles and on the shores of Lake Congo, commanders on the ground and back in Washington and Cape Town have agreed that pushing on a full victory would be too costly and not worth the lives and money that would be spent to accomplish it. While the news was greeted by the American people with some approval and relief that the war is over, there's a large chunk of anti-fascist politicians and commentators that are expressing their disapproval over letting the SS murderers and slavers get away when we were so close to a final victory. However, President John McCormack, in comments made at the White House press briefing, stated that the U.S. and OFN have accomplished all their goals in the fight in South Africa. The Reichskommissariats have had their capabilities dismantled. Our ally is secure, and we've liberated many of the peoples of Nazi tyranny. However, the president and his supporters will have to answer for why they let the Nazis get away and let them rule over much reduced territories. We can only hope that these much reduced and weakened RKs will in time be forced to reform, change, or even collapse. While we've halted and even rolled back the rate tide, we cannot let our guard down now. Tyranny and authoritarianism is still with us and threatening our allies, so we must remain vigilant. But the dark continent has a beacon of hope. The focus tree will change. Maybe not quite, but actually give it a little bit, maybe. There we are. So we have taken borders up to more or less Mondri, Namibia, Botswana, Zimbabwe, and part of Mozambique. The lower half of Mozambique. The most controversial and significant international conflict since the Second World War, the South African War, has now come to an end with today's coming into force of the Treaty of Windhoek, with Oberst Rolf Steiner signing for the German forces and General Creighton Adams signing for the forces of the OFN, the outcome of the war appears to have firmly in favor of the OFN, with the surrounding Reichskommissariats surrendering significant territory in the Boer Republic dismantled as per the terms of the treaty. Leadership on both sides now looks towards the future, yet now with South Africa now responsible for the administration of a vast swath of new territories, An enduring internal strife consuming a German Africa, many internationally fear that the end of one conflict may only be the beginning of many more. But hey, peace at last. Operational success, 10 expertise, and we have dam aid for the Liberians. Beautiful. I'm curious, is the Reichsstadt still gonna happen? Still have the Africa Shield. We have South Africa and the OFN, looking beautiful. As the address from the White House ends, so too does the first major conflict between the U.S. and a major power for the first time in nearly two decades. The housewife of a military man, having heard that her husband will indeed be coming home, screeches in delight, as her neighbors, having only received her flag for her decease the day before, stares at the television in a broken torpor. College students put aside their protest placards and megaphones for a day, choosing instead the bottle and the blunt for a day basking in the fruits of their success. Or the unstated delight that they will not have to be called up anytime soon. The draftees in boot camp continue to curse their fates and their drill sergeants, but a tad quieter, relief that their service might be a more peaceful one. In the Pentagon, planners quietly vacate their desk for a longer than usual smoke break. Their immediate work mercifully concluded, that is, until the inevitable orders come to prepare for the soldiers' return. And in the White House, the President receives another briefing, their thoughts unknowable beneath a facade of practiced calm. Across America, the nation welcomes the first day after the South African War. Tomorrow, America will grieve the dead and embrace the returning heroes, and start coming to terms with the horrors of the war in the veldt and its consequences. Another generation defined by war. But hey, I think we did a great job, all things considered. We literally had to stop ourselves from pushing on and doing way better. And, I'm happy with what we did. We might go balls to the wall in another America game one day, which I wouldn't be opposed to, but for now, let's cut civilian spending. Cut down on that. Deficit anymore? Ooh. On New Year's Eve, the Beach Boys performed Auld Lang Syne at New York City's Times Square, broadcast as part of Guy Lombardo's annual TV special to millions of homes nationwide. However, maybe the last time that this lineup the Beach Boys performs for a foreseeable future. Brian Wilson, the band's bassist, songwriter, and vocalist, announced this morning at a press conference that he will cease touring with the Beat Band and will instead focus on songwriting and spending time with his wife, Marilyn Wavell Wilson. Wilson's spot on the touring lineup will be replaced by Glenn Campbell, a session musician who had previously worked with Beach Boys as well as singers like Frank Sinatra, Dean Martin, Phil Spector, and Elvis Presley. Bombarded by questions from the press about whether this had to do with the stress of touring, burnout from releasing 3 studio albums in a year, the recent firing of his father, Murray Wilson, as manager, a visibly uneasy Brian called an end to the conference and quickly departed. Reporters later reached out to Murray, Brian's father, who described Brian's decision as what always happens when you get too big for your own good, and that his son needs to get his act together and stop letting all this go to his head. Other members of the band, or their representatives at Capitol Records, cannot be reached for comment. I hope Brian's coming back soon. I think with this, we can go ahead and cut military spending for a bit. Save a bit more. And for now, here we are. Victorious. Oh god. LBJ is gone. Now George H.W. Bush is there. What the fuck? Pennsylvania Avenue was lined with the Stars and Stripes and St. Andrew's Cross this week as Scottish President Robert McIntry and his wife Letitia arrived on an official state visit. Greeted by the U.S. Chiefs of Protocol at Andrews Air Force Base, the couple has been staying at the Blair House, the official presidential guest house, for the duration of her visit. In a ceremony held on the White House lawn, the president welcomed McIntry to Washington, remarking that it is his first visit by the leader of Scotland in the history of the country. McIntry thanked the president, hoping that this visit would lead to better relationships with America after a complicated and somewhat strange start. McKinstry was then taken to the State Department building for a luncheon hosted by the Vice President. That night was a state dinner, a White House tie event held in the state dining room of the White House. Both leaders were in attendance, as well as many notable guests. Frank Sinatra hosted a short half-hour performance afterwards in the East Room. McKinstry will make his speech to a joint meeting of Congress today, as well as the tomb of the unknown soldier, and host a return dinner in the Scottish Embassy. He is expected to stay longer than the traditional 4 days in order to visit historical locations along the East Coast, such as Mount Vernon, Monticello, and Independence Hall. And the trips, in remarks to the press, McKinstry expressed enjoyment with his trip so far, and feels the bond between America and Scotland has been strengthened. We hope this makes us the best of friends with the Scots. At least until the English want to come in. Of course. Britannia shall rule again after all. We're done with our doctrine, really. I think let's go ahead and resume battleship development. Euro military district declares war on the Black League. Yeah, I'll give them. We're gonna have Sverdlovsk. Man. It seems as soon as the boat docked on the Norfolk, Virginia port, that Jonathan Stafford, soldier of the 134th Jayhawk Plains Division, would finally find peace after years of turmoil in the South African War. He was born to a poor farming couple in central Kansas and learned to drive a tractor when he was only 7 years old. His skill with a rifle came when he crossed the border into Arkansas and began hunting wild hogs to feed his mother and father. When he turned 18, he was faced with a dilemma: either join the army and provide parents with a substantial income, or stay on the farm for eternity. Once the recruits arrived at the farm, Jonathan's parents would not see their son again for another 6 years. Training came and went before he knew it. Jonathan's division was sent off to Port Elizabeth. The Jayhawk Division, organized in Kansas, was well prepared for the lowly plains of South Africa, but mastering of the terrain was only one step in the process of combat. Stafford himself was involved in several offensives against the Germans and pulled together several kills, but his involvement ended when he was shot in the shoulder. While he was being taken to cover, the Manson German shot another 2 bullets into his wrist and hand. The wounds were not fatal and Stafford fully recovered, but much as charging, he was sent back home. Now, Stafford was a very proud American, and he hoped the general public would hail him as a hero who fought for his country. To put it bluntly, he faced the exact opposite. Protesters spat at him, threw dirt in his face, and even tried to frame him for murder. Students from Kansas City found his address and attempted to set his parents' farm ablaze, but police arrested him before they could act. The police response to Stafford's actions was possibly even more scarring than this experience in the war. He only did as he was told. The American people have spoken. They want justice over nepotism and peace over chaos. By the powers granted to me by our holy Constitution, I promise to legislate and implement an act that will unite America. No longer shall we be divided between black and white, man and woman. The America tomorrow will be one, where each and every one of us will have to do our parts to bring our great nation into the future. God bless America. Robert F. Kennedy's speech was a testament to his late brother's legacy and his final project, implementing a law to stop segregation and dedicate his term to that cause. The question remains, will he be able to do it? Tension in America is larger than in a long time, and his presidency is predicated on the cooperation with the far-right faction, armed segregationists, and not known for playing nice. Good luck, Kennedy. You'll need it. Hail to the chief. Robert Francis Kennedy certainly didn't grow up in an impoverished family. Part of the Kennedy dynasty of businessmen and politicians, his childhood was a privileged one. He grew up in suburban Massachusetts, one of 9 children in a profoundly American family, and was raised to appreciate their Irish and Catholic heritage. Living through the Great Depression for most of his childhood, he witnessed his countrymen face impoverishment as he never had before. Going on to attend Catholic school across New England, Kennedy decided to serve in the Navy after the tragic death of his brother Joseph Kennedy in 1943. Kennedy would serve his country in the Atlantic and the Caribbean, with relatively short service in the armed force having a profound influence on his life and his decision to enter politics. Following an honorable discharge, RFK entered journalism school, particularly interested in welfare and social programs dedicated to help the unfortunate. He was in attendance at the peace conference between the U.S. and Japan, and after the war visited Sweden and White about their extensive welfare programs. When his brother, John F. Kennedy, emerged as a running mate to Richard Nixon, Robert quickly proved his political acumen, to the extent that his brother would say that, if I need something done, and done quick, I go to Bobby. Tragedy would strike soon after. JFK's assassination not only broke Robert's heart, the death of his beloved brother severed any remaining ties to the RDs, whose president had vetoed the Civil Rights Act. Disillusioned with partisan politics, RFK decided to join the National Progressive Party. Determined to make the American dream possible for all of his countrymen, it was promptly pushed to run for the presidency. Swept into office in 1964, Robert became one of a rare breed. He became the champion of American idealism seen in few others, someone who believed in a world and hope, in a world which possessed very little. So, let's take a look at the tree. We're starting off with the Kennedy presidency, which we can figure it all out, one from the other, our moral shadow. And then we have the very important choice to decide whether we want to go ahead and stick with party unity or reach across the aisle. With Lyndon B. Johnson, never mind the fact that, he's not in office anymore. We'll just pretend that he is. Because who doesn't miss good old Jumbo? And then in memoriam, and then we have the Civil Rights Act, which we got to work on. Then we can go ahead and put our foot in the door, which basically means we work with the Republicans. Then we can silently have Dixiecrats and work with this to make the bill stronger. Because if we put our foot in the door, it's gonna look. We're gonna have a weaker bill than slamming the door in their faces. But if we silently Dixiecrats, meet with Malcolm and King and all these guys, the strength of a bill will increase. So we'll get a better bill in general. Then we can do name of bipartisanship. Do whatever we can to help pass, and then go hand in hand, send the bill up, and try to vote for it. Which hopefully we should be able to. And then from here we have a couple options of what we can do. Redrawing school districts, un-American institutions, which can set us up for some complicated shit. And then unjust justice, where shit can also get kind of bad, depending on how we approach it. And then after that, we can do the Civil Rights Act, Charity All, Tour the Nation, and get working on more of the social stuff. And then we also have Fighting Tyranny since 1776. We can do some domestic preparedness, and work on some of this stuff. Keep our eyes on the ports, and then we can negotiate for the treaty ports and Hawaii. And we have a pretty good shot at getting both. We might have to load a couple saves, but we'll be okay. Let's go ahead and take a look. See if we have anything else, really. Not much. We have some guys who need to be put in. Well, we have Hubert Humphrey. The people who are qualified for the job is Hubert Humphrey, Vice President of the U.S. of A. Hubert Humphrey has been in politics for decades. His entire career is one big progressive accomplishment after another. He founded the Minnesota Democratic Farmer Labor Party and laid the groundwork for turning the state into the bastion of social democracy it is today. He founded the Peace Corps to aid the most vulnerable nations, and he has always been a strict anti-fascist, willing to go as far as to jail those who wish to subvert the republic with their toxic ideology. Said that the vice president is only one heartbeat away from the highest office. And if something terrible would happen, Hubert Humphrey would be more than a suitable replacement for Robert Kennedy. Unless, of course, he ends up getting shot, too. Which kind of brings us to the little mechanic. Because all the presidents have their own little mechanics, to one degree or another. I know Wallace Bennett, he has to tackle party unity as well as, I think, the Mormon church, something like that. Wallace, I forget exactly what Wallace or LBJ have. Harrington has the other America, where you see your approval with like middle class, poor class, other America, stuff like that. They all have different mechanics of their own. RFK has his is working under the radar, meaning that how do I put it? I'll open up real quick to explain it. You might see Robert Kennedy will be seen as a more liberal candidate, or he will be seen as a less liberal candidate. Now, you might be thinking, what does that have to do with anything? Well, the more liberal Robert Kennedy is, the more likely it is that he's going to be shot. I'll be honest, I don't really understand that mechanic very well, but what are you going to do, I guess? So you got to kind of manage going too far, looking too liberal, because if you're shot, which I'm hoping isn't going to happen in this campaign, I might reload some saves about it happening. Your vice president, Humphrey, is going to get shot. And through some kind of convoluted, complicated events, Strom fucking Thurmond will become president of the United States and undo every good thing you have done. Unless you decide not to do this focus tree, of course, but, what are you going to do? Anyway, so that's kind of the dilemma we're in. Oh, that's not the dilemma. This is what we have to focus on right now. And eventually we'll get the road towards injustice, which can give us a couple bonuses to look at. So here's a plan. We gotta start this first tree, obviously. Then we're gonna do the Civil Rights Act. We'll do the touring thing, and then we'll go ahead and do fighting tyranny since 76. Work on getting the treaty ports, and then from there, try to do as much as we can to make RFK look bad. Or take away from his legacy. Which we can do, I think, by stamp out the house flames of hate. I'd explain what's happening there, but we'll get to that eventually, I think. So, I read a Reddit comment that explained really the best way to play Kennedy. You have to basically play as a Klansman who's giving the I have a dream speech. You have to walk the party line as well as you can. Don't be too liberal. You'll get fucking shot for whatever fucking reason. So, that's how it works. Election day has come and passed, and Robert F. Kennedy is now the 36th President of the United States. The new heir to one of America's greatest families has blazed a cross-country campaign trail promising to deliver for all Americans. To the worker, he promises better wages and better workplaces. To the old and firm, he promised pensions for their hard work. To the sickly, he promised healthcare, robust and cheap. To the homeless, he promised homes of their own. To the colored man, he promised the rights that they have been withheld for decades. That they can live freely and securely in the land of their birth. Though they had been subject to both doubt and ridicule from both the opponents and his own party. The results speak for himself. Kennedy has the war cut out for him in the months ahead. Cracks are starting to show in the NPP's United Front, and the RDs from county to state have already pledged to stonewall his legislation. But America's downtrodden now look to him for deliverance, as they once did for his brother. If Jack never quit, even in his final seconds, then neither will Bobby. For the first time in nearly a century, neither Republican nor Democrat will hold the White House. Robert F. Kennedy, from the center wing of the National Progressive Party, to get clinched a narrow victory over the Republican Democrats to become the next president. In his acceptance speech, Kennedy earnestly thanked the American people for putting their trust in him, and promised that he would prove that his trust is well placed. The brother of former President John F. Kennedy, Bobby, has vowed to honor his brother's legacy by championing the cause of civil rights even further, and to address the issues of poverty and income inequality to create a better and fairer America for everyone. Cynics believe him to be too bold and idealistic to succeed, but millions of Americans earnestly believe in him to be the man who can change America. Third time's a charm. Let's see what this Kennedy can do, other than get shot. Our industrial expertise is going up fairly slowly, and so is our army professionalism. The shield has been broken. There goes the gross Afrikanische Reichsstaat. Yeah, I'm not very, it's not looking good for Africa, but, well, South Africa's looking fine for, but the Congo and all this stuff, it's not looking good for them. From my understanding, these guys are doomed to fail. Oh, Polska. Hang on there. Oh, Reich Protectorate, Poland. Did they actually hold on? Did they not get murdered immediately? Because that'd be nice. Gonna find peace in depths. George Jellicoe, we kind of knew that was happening. Oh, we got the Kingdom of England. I think that's the wrong flag, but we'll go with it. It's under a conservative government that England fell to tyranny. It's under a conservative government that England shall free itself. Interesting way to put it. Well, let's go ahead and start. Robert F. Kennedy spent his years devoted to his work, allowing himself few pleasures. So, he thought it was only fair that after being inaugurated President of the United States, he would allow himself a night of overindulgence with a bottle of Malbec and his beautiful wife. However, the pleasures of yesterday pale in the light of dawn. Hungover, stomach-lurching, the new president plastered a smile onto his face as he mounted the podium in the White House press room to give his first speech of nation. My fellow Americans, it is with great pride that I come to you today as your president. To have put your trust in me, as you did my father and my brother before me, does me great honor. He stifled a sudden burst of melancholy at the thought of Jack, forcing himself to carry on. Now that I'm your president, I may finally address the issues our nation faces today. Rampant inequality, political instability, growing isolationism on the world stage. It is no secret that we live in turbulent times. He took a breath. But together, we can move past them. I believe in an America where rights for all of our people, regardless of their race, an America purged of the injustice and inequality that ought to have remained in the previous century. An America taking her rightful place as a force for global good. This is my dream. I would like to make it your dream as well. I hereby pledge before our country I love so dear that I will reform this great nation of ours. Together, as Americans, we may face anything. And so on. It seems to have left a strong impact on the press, though Kennedy, as he left the podium. You can only hope that Nixon's duplicity, the people were ready to believe in their president again. To believe in a better tomorrow. Our light shall burn the pathway to the stars. It's like they already know we're going for Glenn. That's beautiful. I like how Serbia is still hanging on. Can we send volunteers to them? We can't. Well, let's figure it all out. My fellow Americans, I will be frank. The past 4 years have had wreaked a terrible toll upon the United States and our institutions. Fear for the future runs rampant, yet distrust for those oath sworn to lead this nation, though thought it grows with each scandal. But we must give in to our lesser nature. Must we give in to our lesser nature and believe that nothing can right America's path before the point of no return? I think not. America and her people are no strangers to crisis. The darkest times are where character and strength shine brightest. And America has showcased great fortitude and unity in every war and oppression that has assailed us for 200 years. We've been dealt bloody many times in the past, but we eventually recovered, and from each we emerged stronger than ever. My fellow Americans, I ask only one thing from you, and one thing only: to believe. Believe in the fortitude that resides in your hearts. Believe in the goodwill that guides our thoughts and actions. Believe that this great country will survive the present crisis, just as it has survived wars in the past. Believe that the present will pass, and together we will find our way back towards a future every American, no matter their race, class, or creed, can look forward to. There we go. Let's figure it all out. There we go, figuring it all out. One foot in front of the other. With President Kennedy elected, we now need to undertake a task that will decide the direction of the administration goes towards the next 4 years. With Kennedy having to appease both the party and the voters, he walks a tight line of putting those he finds honorable and those who he finds just as another career politician who jumped on the NPP party bandwagon. With multiple candidates vying for the top spot and only a few spots to go around, Kennedy must choose carefully. So this is going to be where we get our cabinet picks, I believe. Let's get some better tanks going. And so we can target the Democrats and the Republicans now that we're in power, which is really interesting. I'm trying to look real quick. The Democrats have more power, so I'm thinking... I think we might want to go after the Democrats to weaken them up. Because remember, our man Glenn is a Republican. We'll put 40 million in. We'll get some pipe radios. $15 million and 50 expertise. Okay, yeah, that explains it. Oh, we can do a war shipment? To go ahead and support the Commonwealth. One of the most important positions in the cabinet is that of a defense secretary, and President Kennedy has certainly not failed to deliver. When it came to candidates for the position of Secretary of Defense, the view had its impressive career as Henry Andrews Mucci, the liberator of nearly 513 men who suffered in the Bataan Death March and then imprisoned in the Cabanatuan Death Camp, and the recipient of 2 Bronze Stars, a Purple Heart, and a Distinguished Service Cross. Furthermore, his identity as an Italian-American, the first ever appointed to cabinet, and a Roman Catholic makes him both popular with both groups, who have roundly praised President Kennedy's choice. Though Mucci has expressed a moderate and calm opinion on domestic matters, his stance on international fascism, especially the people who were responsible for the atrocities in the Philippines, is as stern and harsh as ever. The memories of cruelty of those who deny the freedoms of man remain fresh in his mind, and he's not likely to forget them. Claude Pepper. Is that the same guy? Let me look. I shouldn't just leave her hanging. Okay, that's not the right guy. Okay. Well, speak softly, carry a big stick. Let's go ahead and get our moral shadow. The United States of America is perhaps the greatest nation in modern history. Its footprint spans from the far shores of Australia to the icy mountains of Iceland. With the only challenge being the barbarous Japanese and failing Germans, there's no doubt freedom will span the rest of the world in no time. Our fair nation faces a paradox, however. While we project Uncle Sam on every continent, Uncle Sam himself is sickly and weak. His fingers ache with arthritis. I knocked my cup over that had my chocolate milk. There's nothing in there, luckily. His fingers ache with arthritis, and his stomach grumbles with the hunger of a nation subsiding on little but what he can beg for. As we throw our army and money and navy off to foreign lands to fight foreign foes, we let our own people starve and grovel for scraps. No matter how much it costs to the very bones and blood of our nation, we must close this great gaping fault in our great country, not just for America, but for the world. Today, history is made as former Senator Maureen Neuberger becomes the first woman to be appointed to this cabinet of the United States. The President's new Secretary of the Treasury, Neuberger resigned her senacy in order to take up her new position. A veteran of Oregon state politics, along with her late husband Richard, Maureen was elected to the Senate in the 1950s, her husband shortly following her to become the Senate's first husband-wife legislator team. Neuberger continued to serve following Richard's death from cancer in 1960. Immensely popular in Oregon, Neuberger has made a name for herself as a staunch progressive, particularly on social issues such as civil rights and healthcare. While some question the decision of appointing a politician known for her focus on social issues to a largely economic position, the president picked her for that exact reason, to ensure that his administration would not prioritize profit over people. Nevertheless, it's a sad reality that a woman can't get far in federal politics without being as shrewd as a fox. Behind Neuberger's soft voice and warm smile lies a clever political operator, well experienced in the glad handling of Washington, making her a strong asset to the experienced president. If you want something done in politics, ask a woman. Okay, that puts in the description instead of yada yada. Okay, yeah. I think that's a glitch. That wasn't supposed to be there. Well, good for her, really. So we have William McCoy taking up her space. We're Police's Punch. No, we have a special relationship with Scotland. Why not? Not special enough to let, take him, but, Ooh. Very nice. The Secretary of State of the U.S. bears an immense responsibility in being in charge. Oh, I understand now. They put the wrong it's the wrong people. Okay. Being in charge of the President's diplomatic choices, the Department of State, and the appointment of the vast and diverse multitude of personalities who carry out the diplomatic action for the nation. With that in mind, President Kennedy's choice for the office, Claude Denson Pepper, represents the interests of common man, whilst deftly managing the immense and towering mountain of bureaucracy that the Department of State demands, being a staunch progressive and a rock against the anti-democratic movements that have rocked the U.S. and its international allies. Pepper, finding an internet ideological alignment with Kennedy after rising from the murk of Floridian local governments to the height of a Senate ages ago, is now one of the president's most valuable allies, bringing with him years and years of connections, alliances, and most importantly, legitimacy. As one Congress' longest-serving progressives, he is part of a grand plan the president now has to reform and make better the last bastion of freedom in the world. If at first you don't succeed, try and try again. Operational success. We have another active agent going. Stateroom. Let's figure out who's over in England. 55 million. Best of luck to him. Who's really in charge? The MI6 is for the Queen, yes! Our moral shadow. Brilliant. And now we have a choice. And I think we're going to have to go across the aisle. More than likely. The internal chaos that is American politics has only been tempered by the 14 fortunate elections of the NPP to power. It still stands built on a shaky foundation of corruption, partisanship, power-mongering, and war profiteering. While Kennedy has been working to finally put the chaos to rest, he has decided that to do so, he must work with the enemy. Temporarily, of course, not permanent. RFK announced his new policy of cooperating with the Republican Party, especially over their socially liberal policies as well as the progressive views on the welfare state. With the Republican Party essentially being forced to take any opportunity they can, they've grabbed Kennedy's generous hand with eagerness. Now with the NPP and the Republicans working hand in hand, we can finally put the death throes of old American politics to rest. Beautiful. Ooh. Striking a match, Henry Mnuchin, Secretary of State, lit his and the president's cigars. Coupons, Mr. President. Gifts from Fidel himself. Best in the world. The absolute best. Oh. Kennedy having a gift? A Kennedy getting a gift from fucking Castro's rich. I love that. Indeed, replied Kennedy, smiling blithely. There certainly are perks to having friends overseas. I only wish we could still get Belgian chocolate. The two men puffed away in comfortable silence, filling the Oval Office with slowly drifting wafts of blue smoke. With the air of a man dredging up a thought from the deepest silt of his mind, Kennedy said, "You know, Henry, we're going to have to make some changes. After all that turmoil in African Guyana, the voters want us to show our teeth when the fascists come knocking. That's the wave we wash VRDs right out of the White House. If we don't show a firm hand with the Japs, it'll wash us back to sea in 68. Exalting a thin stream of smoke, Moochie stabbed his cigar into his ashtray. Smiling at the president with nicotine-stained teeth, he said, "Damn straight, Bobby. We're going to give Hirohito the spanking his daddy oughta gave him." Kennedy was unable to prevent his mouth curving in amusement. "That we will, Henry. That we will. It's time to rattle some sabers." There we are. Are the RDs just going to be there? Operational success, 10 expertise. George Jellicoe of the National Democratic League has been appointed Prime Minister following recent elections, firmly aligning with our international security interests, founded by Claude Auchinleck following Her Majesty's Most Loyal Resistance victory. The main purpose of the party was to restore Elizabeth II to the throne and, by extension, restore pre-war British society. The core of the party is Jellicoe and his Democrats, a moderate faction with ties to the old aristocracy, and support the complete integration of England into the OFN infrastructure. He is the linchpin, holding the two parties together. Party's other two factions in the team. The second wing is Norman St. John Savas's New Whigs. He supports deeper social reforms, particularly regarding women and homosexuals, as well as a more business-oriented economy. He believes in downsizing the British Army, and while nominally pro-OFN, he wants Britain to play only a minor role within it. He is opposed by Enoch Powell's Patriot Wing. Powell wishes to maintain English independence in foreign affairs, albeit recognizing the necessity of OFN membership. His party also supports such a strongly reactionary line on social issues so that the agency was surprised he joined the resistance at all. Animosity between the two factions greater than between either of the Democrats. Jellicoe is thus able to use his moderate position to strengthen party unity. This is obviously a great success for American interests in Europe. As long as Jellicoe stays in charge of the party in the OFN dominance of English military and security infrastructure is guaranteed. Agency advises continued support for the NDL overtly and covertly, as long as the Conservatives hold the balance of power. His victory is our victory. There we go. We have something good going for us with the English. What do we want to do now? We'll go ahead and do Operation Rupert. 5 million, operation commenced. Just help out our position the best we can, really. We'll do tactical support. Ooh, who's winning? I think Vyatka is, honestly. Maybe. Across the aisle. There we go. Next, we'll go ahead and rally the progressives. There may be few, but men and women of good principles still remain within the white gold edifices of Washington, D.C. These advocates of change come from many different backgrounds and classes and caucus for different parties, but all believe that the United States is in dire need of political, social, and economic reform. For the progressive movement, no other option guarantees America's survival for both the near and the far future. Currently, America's progressives rally under two factions, President Kennedy's own party center and Lyndon Johnson's Republicans. Both extremes of the NPP will raise objections over cooperation with the RDs, and Senator Johnson is infamous for both his temperament and his peculiarities. Nevertheless, bipartisan in accords legitimacy to legislation in our eyes and the eyes of the American people, a showing unity with our natural allies across the aisle can smooth in the passage of progressive policies for less backlash and compromise. There we go. Let's rally the progressives. Two parties with different histories but goals alike. We find them in Washington, D.C., the capital of our fair union, where civil agreements make civil life nice. An old alliance finds itself in new trouble. Two rivals are brought together fighting justice. Today, Bobby went to meet with Lyndon B. Johnson, the leader of the Republicans, to discuss plans for the presidency and to work out a roadmap of bills and laws the Republican Party could work together with the presidency on. They quickly got confirmed what they had long believed, that the other person was of the worst character imaginable. Rude, brash, and too highly thinking of himself. The meeting was planned and arranged by one of the Republican Party leaders, and worst of all, there's going to be more of these meetings. When the president came back to the White House, he said he has actually only a few good ideas, but what an awful man. The less I see of him, the better. Despite the harsh comments, the meeting was actually somewhat constructive, and they managed to work out some ideas, and a note about it was circulating the party. We might be able to get something done. But getting that stuff done is going to have to wait until next time, because I gotta cut it here, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you as always for watching, however. If you like this video, go and leave a like. If not, feel free to dislike. If you want to see more of this content in the future, go ahead and hit the subscribe button for more uploads every weekday, as well as every Saturday. If you have any comments, feedback, concerns, anything of the sort, go ahead and leave them in the comment section below. I read all the comments I get, and appreciate any all feedback you kind folks might have for me. If you want to send a few bucks, I have a Patreon down below. We can chat, play games, just have a good old time in general. If you... I have a Patreon, Discord. I blinked out for a second. I'm getting kind of tired, but I don't want to stop. I have a Discord, I have a Patreon, I have a Twitch down below. If you want interested in any of that, check out the description box. Yeah, that's about it, folks. Thank you as always for watching. My name has been DB333. And I'll see you guys next time. Goodbye.